everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren for those who don't know me, and I make videos about life in Japan. Today I have a special guest with me, Nicole.
Hi.
She has her own channel, so I'll link all of her stuff down in the bottom of the comment section. Today I kind of just wanted to have a casual chat because we're both Americans and we both live here in Osaka, Japan. I really wanted to talk about our motivation for moving to Japan, why we're here, and just what our connection to Japan is in general. How did you get here, like in the first place? Why did you decide to move to Japan of all places?
My story is really all over the place. I didn't have an interest in Japan until kind of later in my life. So when I was a kid, I watched Sailor Moon, and I really liked Pokemon too.
Yep.
But because they were dubbed in English, I had no idea that they were Japanese.
Yeah, right.
shows.
I didn't know that until I was in middle school or something like that, that those were all Japanese cartoons, basically.
Yeah, I didn't know. I grew up in a pretty small town in New Jersey, and I didn't know that much about other cultures and other countries. And then I went to New York for university, and then I realized, wow, there are people from all over the world that live here. And then I studied abroad in London, and I had another realization, wow, there's more than just America. So I kind of got the travel bug at that point. And my senior year of university, I was having trouble finding a job. And a friend told me about teaching in Japan. So that was kind of the first time I ever really thought about going to Japan or living in Japan. But it didn't work out that way. What did I do? I actually tried teaching in Korea.
Oh, okay. So I forget
That did not work out. So
was that their equivalent of the JET program, right? Or was it a different
there's EPIC in Korea,
right,
but I didn't go through that. That's another complicated story. But after that, then I kind of became more curious about other Asian countries after my teaching fail in Korea. And after Korea, I went back to New York and was working there. And then I found a flight to Tokyo that was really cheap. So that was the first time I visited Japan, and I was just amazed.
How old were you then when you just decided to go on a flight, in
23.
Okay, so as you said, a little bit later.
Yeah, pretty late in my life because we're grandmas.
Woohoo! 30. Yeah, my first time to go to Japan was 15 years old, actually.
Yeah, it's an early start.
Yeah. I was way into anime and manga back in the day, in middle school more specifically. Then my first trip to Japan was actually kind of a layover in Japan on our way to China, which was our big 3-week family trip to mainland China. It wasn't Hong Kong or Taiwan or anything, it was mainland China. It was, I think, Shanghai, Beijing, Guilin, and Xi'an, the one with the terracotta warriors and stuff. So we had a whole 3-week big extravaganza trip, and we spent a couple days in Tokyo to get over our jet lag and stuff like that. And of course, me being the whole anime manga nerd that I was back then, I was oh my god, I must see. I actually had my nose in a manga most of the time. I don't really remember that trip very much, to be honest. I just knew wow, I'm in Japan. That was it. And the next time I came back was when I was almost 19 years old. And my roommate at the time, well, not roommate, suite mate, I would say, because that was after my first year of university. She was Japanese, but I didn't actually know she was real Japanese. And what I mean by real Japanese is that yes, so she actually has a Japanese passport. She's Japanese, but she went to international school in Tokyo for pretty much her entire life. She lived a couple years in St. Louis, Missouri. We became really good friends, in our suite, 4 of us in our suite became really good friends. But she invited me back to Japan, after my first year, her second year of university. And that was when I had my first Johnny's concert, J-pop concert. I mean, it was a whole blowout extravaganza. It was over 10 years ago now. I remember it still clearly to this day, though. But that was my real first exposure to real life, because her family lived here. So I was basically being taken around by locals and stuff, which was really interesting because I had no idea she was Japanese. She spoke with an American accent. Me being, I guess, naive back then. I didn't realize about all these international schools. Then I came back once a year, every single year after that, for study abroad in Japan, so I studied abroad many times, 3 times after that. And finally, Kansai Gaidai University at Hirakata City, that was where I last studied abroad, and that's where I decided I want to come live here in Japan. That was kind of my history with Japan, and I decided to come back and get my MBA after that. But I went through a whole like job interview process and all of that type of stuff before I actually decided to go to get my MBA here at Doshisha University and stuff. So that was kind of my... We were just talking before we went on camera that like some people start really late and have like a really deep connection with Japan and stuff like that, and other people are just like, I just decide to just pick up and like go to Japan for whatever reason. So I feel like we're kind of complete opposite spectrums of
really different stories. So, 2 Americans with 2 very different stories.
And I'm from Florida initially too, so it's
I'm
complete.
from New Jersey.
New Jersey.
But I call New York my home because I resonate with New York more.
Then you eventually went and got an English teaching job here then.
Yeah, so after my trip to Tokyo, I decided that I would save money for about a year, and then I moved to Tokyo just on a tourist visa, which I don't know if I would recommend that to
It's not the best way to do
everybody.
it, no.
Because the tourist visa runs out, so I thought like, I need a job pretty quickly, and teaching English is one of the easiest jobs that foreigners can get here, but obviously it's not the only type of work people can do.
There's a bunch of different ways to get a job here besides teaching English, but a lot of people use English teaching as a springboard for life here, which is perfectly fine. I just recommend that you come with some sort of plan when you come here. If you want to teach English, if you really want to teach English, that's great. If you don't want to teach English, just have a plan basically set to be like, I'm going to teach English to get my foot in the door, then I'm going to do step A, B, and C. I really don't recommend winging it when you come to another country. It's just not.
Yeah, even though I did it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I think I just got lucky.
You can get lucky in some instances, but the majority of the people just don't count on coming on a tourist visa and then miraculously being able to stay here somehow. Because technically, it's difficult to change your visa over to like a working visa. I don't necessarily know about student visas, like if it's easy to like change to a student visa or not, but...
I think it's probably the same. Because when I was looking at language schools, I was considering changing to a student visa, and they all told me I had to go back to my home country to do that.
Got it. Yeah, that's the other thing. If you can technically change your visa in Japan, like from a student... Oh, actually, I did do that. I changed it from a student visa to a working visa when I completed my MBA program. I didn't have to leave the country or anything like that when I changed my visa.
Maybe just from tourist visas to any... Because tourist visa is not really a visa.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, different visas have different lengths and stuff. We're not visa experts. We're not going to go into that at all. No. Do your research, because anybody can probably Google and understand like what to do for visa stuff, even though it can get complicated, but we're not visa experts or anything. The only thing we can say is try to come in with somewhat of a plan on like what you want to do here. The whole reason why I decided to do this video in the first place is because when I was back in the US for 5 months, because I was kind of locked out of Japan for a while, which I have a series here that I can link on me getting back. Part 1's already up at this point. I don't know when part 2 is going to be up, but it should be up soon. One of my parents' friends asked me a question, which was, why Japan? Why not America? Like, pretty much the nuance there was, isn't America like good enough? In a way, it wasn't like mean intent or anything like that, but that got me thinking of, why do I like living in Japan better than living in the US? Like
as a long term.
Yeah, as a long term. So I've been here for 8 years. You've been for
3.5.
3.5, yeah. So we've both been here long term. And everyone says once you've hit the 3-year mark, that's when you pretty much are like, you decide, I want to go back, like I have enough of it. Or
that's when the rose tinted glasses come off.
Normally it's about year 3 is what a lot of like expats, not just Americans, a lot of expats say. It's normally between year 2 and 3 is when everything kind of just settles in, like, I'm actually living here. It's my life. It's like, we were talking at lunch earlier, like the kombini gets like not cool anymore. Like you're commuting on like packed transport every single day. Like it's a normal life.
Yeah.
So like,
Just
why do you choose Japan like over America?
Well, I feel like since I've lived here, I mean, also because I'm getting older too, that I've grown a lot as a person. And it's easy for me personally to grow when I'm not comfortable in my environment. Like, not to say that I'm uncomfortable living here, but it's a continuous challenge to
learn to be
yeah.
comfortable with being uncomfortable is how I describe it.
Yeah. I'm constantly challenging myself, so I feel like I've grown a lot more in that way. And it's also fascinating to be learning new things all the time.
That's exactly my answer too, is like I'm challenged every single day. I'm not speaking in my native language. I am put in situations that I wouldn't normally be put back in the US, like because I am foreign. Like, there is racism. You do get people talking to you in English when you know how to speak Japanese. There's a whole ton of things that go along with it. So when you hit year 3, that's when a lot of people can't take the bureaucracy. A lot of people are like, Japan doesn't align with me. I'm going to go back home. And I've had many friends who have decided to take the plunge to go back to their home country because after a while, they just couldn't do it anymore. It just wasn't them. But for me, I've learned like the most successful people here are the ones the most successful foreigners here. And I hate using the word foreigner sometimes, but that's literally like what Japanese people use all the time. Like, the most successful foreigners learn to adapt, as you said. Learn that you're still a guest in this culture, no matter how many years you live here. You are still going to be considered an outsider, and it's a hard reality to deal with, is the only way that I can describe it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's something you have to cope with.
No, it's hard. I've been through a lot of stuff like living here, but I've always learned to adapt. I've always pushed through, and it's fine if it's not for you, by the way. It's not a sin to want to go back to your home country and you don't feel comfortable here anymore. Nor will we, like, as people who are living here for a long time, blame you for wanting to go back, like, to your home culture.
Yeah, it's not really like it's not like a rite of passage. Like, if you enjoy living here, then you're like better than somebody else.
Yeah, it's not. Like, everyone is completely different, and also the way that we live life here is completely different too. Like, we're still individual people. Like, all foreigners here aren't grouped into this like one little
English teaching bubble.
Yeah. That's one of my pet peeves, is people thinking that you're automatically an English teacher when not everybody is. And I kind of went through kind of interview questions and interview like job hunting stuff on Nicole's channel. So go ahead and check the link down below. We spoke on her channel kind of about that, but don't assume that we all teach English here, because we don't. We have different motivations. We have different things that have drawn us here, which I did say earlier that I've never taught English here except casually, but you've taught English.
Yep, full-time, part-time. We have completely different stories about how we got here, kind of the same reasons for why we like living here, but we also live 2 very different lives here. So.
Exactly. And I guess the big question that everybody wants to ask is, will you ever move back to the US? Because every single person who I know asks me that question. And I mean, sure, they're curious, but it's very loaded. Like, people think that it's not loaded, but it's a very loaded question.
Yeah, I don't think I can answer that question because I can't predict the future. But
right? That's...
I'm married, though, to a Japanese person, so I could very possibly be here forever. I'm open to that, and, I'm open to the future.
That's very similar to my answer, which is I will never say never.
Yeah.
But I am content with my life here right now. I have connections here. I do have a long-term boyfriend as well who's Japanese. And I have my best friend. I basically, think about it this way, I've built my entire adult life here in Japan. Everything was a first here. I got my first real career job here. I got my own apartment by myself, all in Japanese. Rent, utilities, all like these rites of passage as an adult that you would normally do in America, like in the US, I did everything here in Japan. So it's going to be really difficult for me to make the decision to go back to the US, but I will never say no, that I'm never going to move back or anything. Nor do I say that Japan is better than the US. I never say that, which is why I thought that my mom's friend, the question, had the nuance of why is Japan better? Which I don't think Japan's better. I don't think the US is better. I just prefer my life here at the moment, and I have no idea where life's going to take me, just as you said. I could move to England, I could move to Australia, I could move to a completely different country. You know, like Jen, for like layers of Jen, she just up and moved to Taiwan recently because like with her husband, like you never know what life is going to bring you. I'm glad that like somebody else kind of like gets that as well, because we didn't even talk about that question like before we got on camera. So that was really surprising to me that we literally had almost like the same answer, and it makes me happy that somebody like that we have similar but like different stories.
I think the mindset is similar, just the circumstances are different. Yeah, because personally I don't want to give a hard answer for anything because I want to stay open-minded.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to put a time frame. I don't want to put a time limit. I don't want to put a hard stop on, yes, of course I'm moving back to the US. Yes, I'm living my entire life here in Japan. I can't say that. Like if somebody had asked me this in the past, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like I have no idea. But like that's how I've really found my answer is just, I don't know. I truly don't know. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody who's even like considering moving to Japan? Like not even as American and stuff like that, but just as a foreigner?
Just be open-minded so that you're not disappointed when you come here, because it's not a perfect place. Obviously there's more good than bad because we want to stay here, but it's not perfect, so just come here with an open mind and also be open to learning Japanese too, because I don't understand the foreigners who are so against it.
I don't either. Like look, you don't need to learn Japanese fluently.
Yeah, you don't need to be fluent, but
everyday effort, like everyday words, like going to the kombini, speaking to people in Japanese there, like being able to I don't want to say get by, but just think of it this way. It's like turning around and going to America and saying, I'm not going to learn English, I'm only going to learn Spanish. Like I'm just going to speak in Spanish the entire time. Sure, there are going to be people who are tolerant of it and like help you and stuff, but you're not going to learn the language, the real culture, the real stuff behind it. And if you want to build a life here, then you kind of have to understand the culture and stuff. You can't just live in what is called like the gaijin bubble, which there are people who've lived here like 20 something years that can't speak barely any Japanese besides like really bad konnichiwa. Like like we laugh about it, but it's true, and I don't want to say that I'm above that or anything. That's not the point. But it's like you need to make an active effort to actually live life here and become accustomed to it, basically, and that includes Japanese. But I will add, take off those rose-colored glasses, do your research, really like, watch videos like this. Everybody has a unique story. Just listen to all the advice that you can get, figure out what the best way for you is, because there's no correct, 100% correct answer, because we have completely different stories on how we got here. I was here on a student visa, you came here on a tourist visa and somehow got a job. Like research is all that I can say. And even if any other country besides Japan, moving abroad is not an easy decision. It's so much easier now that it's globalized, but still, research. That's the only thing that I can say. I think that pretty much like wraps up this video. Like, thank you so much, Nicole, for kind of joining me on this little casual chat. Like, it's been fun. This is like the first time that we have met in person, but we were saying earlier that like we feel like we've known each other like for a while because we've been following each other on Instagram. Yeah. Make sure to check out Nicole's channel here. All the links below. and also the collab video that I just said earlier that's on Nicole's channel, which is all about interview questions like here in Japan, like interview process and stuff, more specifically for non-English teaching jobs here. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!